Good afternoon. I hope everybody is awake and talking about M&E can put people to sleep. So I'll keep this simple and anecdotal. Okay, just a minute about Central Square Foundation. We're a 7-year-old foundation and we work in the area of children's school education. Okay, and we worked across the spectrum. Okay, we do grant making, we do research, and we also work with the government, okay? And we worked across the body of knowledge, which is ethic for students, how to improve teachers, how to improve principals, assessment, etc. Now, we pride ourselves in terms of being very measurement and evaluation focused. And over the years, we kind of come to a conclusion that our body of work has to impact student learning outcomes, okay? So we'd like to measure in almost all cases that we are directly affecting student learning outcomes and, have a direct impact on that. We don't like to do projects or make grants which don't do this. But we have a model, okay, for monitoring and evaluation, which we have developed over a period of time, and that's flexible. So it's fit for purpose because organizations can be startups and organizations can be the central government, and there's a huge difference between the two. Okay, I'll skip this chart to remain anecdotal. So broadly, I mean, if you look at it from end to end, if you have a simple organization, you look at the framework, a startup comes with an idea, okay, and we say, okay, do you have an evidence-based causeway? Because most of the stuff we are doing, okay, is contextual to India, but it's been done elsewhere in the world successfully or unsuccessfully, okay? And then we ask them to think about the idea in detail and put rigorous metrics, rigorous monitoring and evaluation system in place and go do it, okay? And the question that was asked here is, I don't think even God can get it right the first time. So there's a process of iteration, okay, where you learn what you learn as long as you're measuring, and there's a loop back, and you iterate till you progressively get a model that works, okay? And then you keep measuring internally. And when you're mature, you also have to be honest enough to do impact evaluation with an outside agency, okay? So the data is actually somebody signs off and there's no internal biases in terms of measurement. So, I mean, this is the model, okay, and we have tools and resources, we do internal advisory, we do external partnerships with people to get the various elements of this done. Now, I'm going to spend the next few minutes basically talking to you for examples we have done, okay, so that they can illustrate some of these things. So one example I used yesterday, and I won't use any more examples which I've already talked about, is ISLI, okay? ISLI is the Indian School Leadership Institute. So it was a grantee which started working with us 5 years ago, okay? And their theory of change was that school leadership or the quality of the principal, his knowledge, his enthusiasm has a huge impact in terms of the ability of the school and in terms of learning outcomes. And this has been evidenced across the world before. We know this, it's been evidenced, it's been validated. Said, okay, let's do this. So this organization started in block 1 there, said, okay, this is a framework, this is a theory of change, and they set up, okay, in Delhi, and they started working on low-income private schools and fairly resource-intensive model. So they got off the ground in a year, okay, then they iterated, okay, they measured, they iterated, so they became less resource-intensive, okay. They moved to 5 cities, they moved from private schools to also include government schools, and have been successful, but we kept measuring, okay, internally and externally. Today, I mean, if you look at them on a 5-year journey, they're in 5 cities, they covered 1,400 schools, impact is in excess of 500,000 children. And yes, and learning outcomes also, if you were to measure learning outcomes for kids who have principals, okay, which have been through the ISLI program, and for schools, similar schools which don't, there's a 20% gain in learning outcomes both in maths and in language. So I mean, that's a journey, okay, of somebody who's been successful doing it. There are orgs or grants that don't make it all the way through. But I mean, that's really our model, and we kind of are data-based and continue to be data-based. Now, when you go to government, okay, government's really very different. Yeah? I mean, we all know that. You need a lot more patience, perseverance with the government, and you don't have the degree of control you have, okay, with an entrepreneurial not-for-profit, okay, and you can't be as flexible and change, pivot, or iterate as many times as you'd like to. So, a couple of things, but you know, government, I think, has started realizing what the problems in education are and has tried to get its act together, okay. For example, the issue around the fact that overall school education, okay, is divided into private schools and government schools in India. And private schools aren't what you and I visualize the schools we send our kids to. Okay, they're really, some of them are really small, 1 room, 2 room, 4 room schools. But what's happened over the last 20 years is that the government share of total student enrollment, which in India is about 23 crores, has been falling. In the last 10 years, government enrollment's fallen from 13 crores to 11 crores. Okay, and private school enrollments have gone up from 7 to 9, ballpark. Okay, so every year the government's losing 1.5%. Because why? Because parents decide, the market decides that they think government schools are better. So, you know, there's a lot of theories about this. Some of it is that people want to send their kids to English medium schools, okay, and some of it is that private schools are better than public schools. But, you know, that's all opinion-based, not data-based. But there have been governments which have done some stuff about it. We recently did a study with the government of Andhra Pradesh in Prakasam district. Okay, the study has not yet been published, where we said, okay, let's figure out, are government schools better than private schools? So we did the study in grade 4, because 1 to 3 is primary, and we test for foundational skills in class 3, typically in class 5 and 8. I mean, those are the 3 benchmarks. And we said, okay, and let's also make sure that people can't influence the quality of the input. So we funded and worked together with the government to do a device-based, handheld-based survey of 2,700 schools in Prakasam, or 1,700 schools in Prakasam, and 27,000 children, okay? And the reason is the government is looking at data, the government wants to change the outcome. They want enrollments in government schools to stabilize or to go up. And guess what we found? I mean, now this is one district, but a representative district, one state. It's not a national finding. We found that there wasn't much difference. In fact, the government schools were slightly better. Okay, but you know, I mean, that's the measurement, okay, of, you know, this thing. The other thing is, state governments can be pretty proactive. I mean, strangely enough, because this English medium thing, and sometimes governments move faster than they should. It's a myth that they don't move. So in Tamil Nadu, okay, in the government schools now, you have an option of, do you want to be educated in the same school, in the medium of education, in a lot of government schools, Tamil, or you can opt for English. Okay, now the same school, the same capacity, you don't know whether the teacher is adept at teaching in English. You don't know what the learning outcomes of these two groups will be over a period of time. Okay, so you go back to, is it better to measure and progressively iterate and do this? Or do you just go home? You know, do you just take a step, be entrepreneurial, and fix the issue? So when you're looking at measurement, there's some fairly sophisticated stuff being done. There have been even more sophisticated system overhauls, okay, and reasonably successful. In 2014, okay, the government of Rajasthan, okay, set out to review, okay, and rationalize, okay, its public schooling system. Okay, and I'll tell you a bit about it. They had 80,000 schools.
Excuse me, okay. Ashok, shall we leave it for the Q&A?
Sure.
3 minutes up.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, so anyway, I think we'll stop at this example. We have a lot of examples. Let's just conclude with essentially saying what our learnings for M&E are. Okay, we use M&E, okay, as a tool for learning and improvement, okay, rather than tool for accountability, okay? Because accountability, using it as a tool for accountability makes people exaggerate, makes people not give you the right data. It should be fit for purpose, different approaches for different orgs, okay? You have to proactively build up the capacity of an org, okay, for M&E, okay? In the government, working jointly in improving the government's own data, okay, is very important. And setting the right metrics and data quality is key. Okay, thank you.